Tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I want you to get up right now. Get up, go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Things have got to change.
How many stations does this go out?
You've got to get mad.
67. I know it goes to Louisville and Atlanta.
I'm not going to take this anymore. Then we'll figure out what to do about the depression and the inflation and the oil crisis. But first, get up out of your chairs, open the window, stick your head out and yell, and say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Who are you talking to, Herb?
CGG Atlanta.
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Herb?
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Ted?
But first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
They're yelling in Baton Rouge.
Get up out of your chair.
We struck the mother load.
Stick your head out of the window, open it, and stick your head out and keep yelling and yell, I'm as mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. Just get up from your chairs right now. Go to
Where are you going? I want to see if anybody's yelling.
Window, open it and stick your head out and yell and keep yelling. So, I'm not going to take it.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Syntax Trust Mastery class, Unlocking Opportunities in the Financial Industry. Introduction. In the ever-changing landscape of the financial industry, recent bank failures have led to a surge in revenue for foreign businesses dealing with arbitration. This phenomenon has sparked a worldwide interest, offering a unique opportunity for individuals to join a thriving team. By becoming part of this team, you can tap into the world of trust and tax arbitration, helping corporations and legal entities recoup their capital. Join our team. If you're looking to make a significant income without prior experience, we invite you to join our team. Contact our office at 561-873-2125 to explore this exciting opportunity. We have recently launched our Syntax Trust Mastery class on June 5th, which is designed to empower individuals like you to earn up to $30,000 per month. Yes, you heard it right, up to $30,000 per month with no experience required. Don't miss out on this exclusive chance to learn more about our program and enroll today. The power of alternative business lending. In addition to our Syntax Trust Mastery class, we also offer a unique broker referral program through Go Capital Services. As a registered broker, you'll gain access to various business loan and real estate financing programs for clients nationwide. This opportunity comes with comprehensive training, marketing support, and sales assistance, all at no cost to you. With approximately 30 million active small businesses in the U.S. and traditional commercial financing becoming increasingly limited, alternative funding options are in high demand. By offering loans ranging from $10,000 to $5 million, you can easily earn over $10,000 in monthly commissions. Go Capital Services covers revenue-based loans, equipment leasing, business lines of credit, unsecured term loans, commercial real estate mortgages, and more. Regardless of bad credit, tax issues, or high-risk industries, you can thrive in this lucrative field and make a substantial monthly income. Syntax Trust Mastery Class highlights. The Syntax Trust Mastery Class has been a resounding success, equipping individuals with the necessary knowledge for implementing trust structures effectively. During the class, we covered various topics, and here are some key highlights. 1. Introduction to ChatGPT implementation. First, exploring the universal use of ChatGPT in trust administration and compliance. Second, understanding the different ways ChatGPT can be integrated into daily operations. 2. Tools for success. First, utilizing platforms such as Word.WPS and Master PDF for record keeping and authentication. Second, harnessing the power of context and relevant information to enhance compliance officer capabilities. 3. Trust administration and compliance. First, building a solid foundation for compliance officers to earn a minimum of $35,000 per month. Second, providing a framework that incorporates the prerequisite knowledge from civil law notary training. 4. Implementing AI as a virtual administrative assistant. First, training AI to act as a virtual assistant to facilitate efficient and effective trust administration. Second, providing clear instructions and context to maximize the AI's capabilities. 5. Trust Mastery Syntax Class Continuation. First, optimizing the algorithm used in the course to further enhance trust administration skills. Second, empowering individuals to create their own bank-in-a-box platforms and capitalize on limitless possibilities. Conclusion. The Syntax Trust Mastery class offers a gateway to unparalleled opportunities in the financial industry. By joining our team, you can unlock your earning potential and make a substantial monthly income. Whether you're interested in trust administration, compliance, or alternative business lending, this program provides the training and support you need to succeed. Don't hesitate to contact our office at 561-873-2125 and enroll in our Syntax Trust Mastery class today. Remember, with determination and the right knowledge, you can thrive in the world of finance and create a prosperous future for yourself. Demystifying the role of compliance officers in trust management. Introduction. Compliance officers play a critical role in ensuring adherence to legal and regulatory requirements, as well as maintaining ethical standards in trust management. In this article, we will delve into the responsibilities and best practices of compliance officers, providing an overview of their role in the field of trust administration. Understanding legal and regulatory frameworks. To effectively fulfill their responsibilities, compliance officers must have a deep understanding of the legal and regulatory frameworks governing trust administration. This includes staying up to date with changes in laws and regulations that impact trust management and ensuring internal processes are updated accordingly. Key responsibilities of compliance officers. Compliance officers in trust management are entrusted with various important tasks to ensure compliance and best practices. Some of their key responsibilities include: 1. Development and implementation of compliance policies and procedures. First, drafting, implementing, and updating policies and procedures to comply with applicable laws and industry standards. Second, establishing controls and protocols to prevent violations and identify potential compliance risks. 2. Monitoring and assessing compliance. First, conducting regular compliance reviews, audits, and risk assessments to identify gaps and deficiencies in trust management practices. Second, monitoring ongoing compliance with legal and regulatory requirements and promptly addressing any non-compliance issues. 3. Keeping abreast of changes in laws and regulations. First, staying informed about changes in laws and regulations that affect trust administration. Second, updating internal processes and procedures to align with new requirements. 4. Trust training and education. First, providing training and education to trustees and other stakeholders on trust compliance and best practices. Second, ensuring a thorough understanding of legal and regulatory obligations within the trust management team. 5. Regulatory reporting and documentation. First, preparing and submitting required reports to regulatory bodies. Second, maintaining accurate and up-to-date documentation to demonstrate compliance efforts. 6. Risk management and compliance investigations. First, managing and mitigating compliance risks through proactive risk management strategies. Second, conducting investigations into potential compliance violations and implementing corrective measures when necessary. 7. Collaboration and communication. First, collaborating with internal and external stakeholders to foster a culture of compliance. Second, ensuring effective communication of compliance policies, procedures, and updates within the organization. 8. Legal resources. First, leveraging legal resources such as Regulation J to navigate the complex landscape of trust administration. Second, understanding the legal tools and frameworks that support trust compliance. Unveiling the power of compliance in trust management. Compliance officers play a vital role in ensuring the integrity and adherence to legal and regulatory requirements in trust management. By upholding ethical standards and implementing best practices, they contribute to the overall success and sustainability of trust structures. Compliance officers are instrumental in safeguarding the interests of trust stakeholders, including trustors and beneficiaries, and maintaining public trust in the financial system. In conclusion, compliance officers in trust management are guardians of trust integrity and compliance. Their expertise and diligence ensure that trust structures operate within the boundaries of the law, enabling the realization of the benefits and objectives of trusts. Trust management can thrive when compliance is given the utmost priority, and compliance officers play a pivotal role in this process. Unlocking the Power of Understanding the Public, a Paradigm Shift. Introduction. In this article, we will explore the concept of the mentor's public and its implications in commercial activity. By delving into the synonymous phrases and underlying meanings associated with the public, we aim to provide a comprehensive understanding of its true nature. This knowledge is crucial for individuals seeking to become competent compliance officers and navigate the complexities of trust management successfully. The illusion of the public. The term non-sphere publican often serves as an illusion, representing a realm that is not as it appears. By grasping the following synonymous phrases, we can unravel the truth behind the public. 1. Illusion. First, the public is not a tangible reality, but rather an illusion created by societal constructs. Second, it is essential to recognize the illusory nature of the public when engaging in commercial activities. 2. Debtors. First, those associated with the public are classified as debtors, entangled in financial obligations. Second, understanding this debt-driven aspect sheds light on the dynamics of the public. 3. Limited liability. First, limited liability is a defining characteristic of the public. Second, individuals in the public have restricted responsibility and are shielded from certain obligations. 4. Irresponsibility. First, irresponsibility accompanies the public, as individuals within it are reliant on external entities for their basic needs. Second, this lack of self-sufficiency reflects the irresponsibility inherent in the public. Opinion, perception, and testimony. Opinion, perception, and testimony play integral roles within the public domain. Recognizing their significance provides further insight into the nature of the public. 1. Opinion. First, opinions shape the actions and decisions of those immersed in the public. Second, understanding the prevalence of opinions within the public highlights the subjective nature of its operations. 2. Perception. First, perception influences how individuals in the public interpret and respond to various situations. Second, recognizing the role of perception underscores the subjective nature of public engagement. 3. Testimony. First, testimony holds weight within the public, impacting the outcomes of legal proceedings. Second, acknowledging the significance of testimony sheds light on the legal dynamics within the public. The incapacity to act. Individuals associated with the public face limitations when it comes to taking action. This incapacity is a result of various factors. 1. Dishonor. First, those engaged in arguments or disputes within the public domain often find themselves in a state of dishonor. Second, dishonor hinders individuals from taking effective action within the public sphere. 2. Consumerism. First, consumerism is synonymous with the public, representing individuals who actively participate in consuming goods and services. Second, recognizing consumerism as an attribute of the public sheds light on its dynamics. 3. Judicial immunity. First, when the public interacts with the judicial system, the judges hold immunity. Second, this immunity stems from the nature of the public and its associated limitations. The journey towards competent compliance. Understanding the intricacies of the public is crucial for those aspiring to become competent compliance officers in the field of trust management. By acknowledging the true nature of the public, compliance officers can navigate complexities and fulfill their roles effectively. Here's how to embark on this journey. 1. Provide a brief overview. First, Begin by explaining the role and significance of compliance officers in trust management. Second, emphasize the importance of adhering to legal, regulatory, and ethical standards within the domain. 2. Break down the roles and responsibilities. First, outline the specific responsibilities of compliance officers, including policy development, monitoring and assessment, and keeping abreast of changes in laws and regulations. Second, detail the vital tasks of training and education, regulatory reporting, risk management, compliance investigations, collaboration, communication, and utilization of legal resources. 3. Implement the step-by-step approach. First, use a step-by-step approach to create a comprehensive outline of the compliance officer's roles and responsibilities. Second, begin by providing a brief introduction, followed by a breakdown of each step with clear explanations. 4. Cultivate legal proficiency. First, present the step-by-step outline to legal students, adopting the role of a legal professor. Second, offer detailed explanations that cater to the needs of students seeking to enhance their legal knowledge. 5. Execution of the outlined steps. First, utilize the outlined steps to execute the necessary tasks and responsibilities of compliance officers in trust management. Second, embrace the power of technology, such as AI chatbots, to streamline and enhance the efficiency of compliance efforts. By embarking on this journey, compliance officers can not only gain a deep understanding of their roles, but also contribute significantly to the success of trust management. The paradigm shift brought about by this understanding will enable compliance officers to operate with competence and professionalism, making a positive impact in the field. In conclusion, unlocking the true nature of the public is a crucial step towards becoming an effective compliance officer in trust management. By recognizing the illusory and limited liability aspects of the public, understanding the influence of opinion, perception, and testimony, and embracing the journey towards competence, compliance officers can navigate the complexities of trust management successfully and contribute to the integrity and efficacy of the field.
Do you ever find yourself turning on the news only to feel that what you're being told doesn't line up with your experience? You're not alone. Despite claims of a robust economy, plummeting inflation, and a red-hot job market, over 80% of Americans share a different sentiment, that things with the economy are getting worse, not better. What if I told you that behind the everything is fine, sunshine and rainbows, that there was actually a web of data manipulation distorting the reality we lived in? I'm Taylor Kenny with ITM Trading, and this is Tailor-Made Economics. Numbers don't lie, but they can deceive. Today, we'll debunk the current job and inflation data, separating fact from fiction so that you can understand what the real story is. Because without the truth, how can you possibly protect yourself? At first glance, the 3.7 unemployment rate may seem incredible. However, this figure doesn't take into account people who are experiencing reduced hours, diminished wages, or the some 8.7 million people who are working multiple jobs just to make ends meet. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS, reported last month that there's around 5.8 million people not in the workforce who would like to be employed, but they're not included in that 3.7% unemployment because of some arbitrary classification. If we were to include that roughly 6 million people in the numbers, that 3.7, go figure, gets a lot higher when you include everyone who wants a job but doesn't have one. Let's take a look at the job numbers. Would you believe that in January alone, the private sector experienced a loss of over 2 million jobs? Meanwhile, headlines touted that the economy added 353,000 new jobs. How is this possible? A little something called seasonal adjustment. While seasonal adjustments are normal, of course, there's going to be a heightened demand around the holidays. It's concerning that the news takes this information and portrays it as a sizzling hot job market, when in reality, they're not showing you the raw data. They're showing you adjusted, tampered with data, which deprives you of the opportunity to make your own assessments about what's really going on. And believe me, we've barely scratched the surface here on this data manipulation. These so-called job gains were predominantly in 3 sectors: healthcare and social assistance, leisure and hospitality, and government. The reason why this is so crucial is that many of these gains are being funded and bankrolled by additional new government debt. While President Biden champions the creation of these jobs as a cornerstone of his re-election campaign, his labor secretary, Julie Su, still has yet to confirm the long-term stability of these jobs. If they persevere, are they an economic blessing, or rather adding to the burden of debt? The narrative of Bidenomics would say that these developments are a success story. In reality, it is much more complex than that, and we will break that down shortly. But job creation or not, I think it's important that we acknowledge that this continuous debt cycle is unsustainable. That's why at ITM Trading, we specialize in helping you protect yourself outside of this system. If you haven't already, scan the QR code, call us, get a strategy in place. Because as we've seen, this trend of data manipulation to create a reality shows no signs of stopping. A quick visit to whitehouse.gov and a look at last month's employment record will tell you everything that you need to know. They blatantly call out that the data had sensitive adjustments deftly made by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But can we trust these adjustments to tell the whole truth? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I know my answer because this leads me to my main concern: how the BLS is calculating this data in the first place. Prior to 2003, the BLS used a strict sampling method in order to calculate job creation and cuts. The system was far more accurate than what they have now, but they claimed that the data was too slow or less control. This is when they introduced the birth-death model. This model speculates on job creation based on historical businesses' births and deaths or creations and closures. As you can imagine, it is not very accurate and has consistently inflated job creation numbers since its inception. This full control over the data creation is exactly what's also happening to inflation data, but in reverse. Inflation is the erosion of your purchasing power, represented in the changing price of goods and services. But you guessed it, the way that we measure the price of goods and services is constantly being adjusted. We can talk all day long about how inflation has come down 3.1%, under 4%, but your wallet doesn't lie. We have lost over 17% of our purchasing power in the last 4 years, and that is what really matters. The same way that the employment report calculations were changed in 2003 to include the birth-death estimate model is the same way that the CPI calculations have changed over 30 times since 1980. The CPI that we see in the news today is the core CPI, a version of the CPI that conveniently excludes volatile energy and food prices. Go figure, you take out food costs and suddenly inflation looks better. But we know what's really going on. While gas prices might have come down recently, food prices are continuing to rise. And as they sit today, they are 25% higher than they were in January of 2020. It's no wonder that Americans are taking on a record amount of debt. And no, not because the consumer is strong, but because they need to make ends meet. At the end of last year, it was estimated that the American households combined had roughly $17.5 trillion worth of debt. And defaults are currently soaring to levels not seen since 2008 as people finance their lives, food, and rent on credit. All of this to say, you should feel like the economy is crumbling, and you're not alone for not buying the everything is fine narrative that keeps getting pushed. All of this data has been expertly crafted to make us think that the government is doing their job and doing it well, with one goal in mind: to keep us quiet and to keep us content. But we won't be silenced. Questioning leadership, questioning the system, the fiat US dollar. These are all essential conversations for our freedom. The sad truth is the system that we live in was not created or built for you and I, which is why my advice is to leave, get out. I saw some comments last week that it always comes back to gold, which I'm not going to deny because I am sitting here looking at these numbers backed from fiction. And what I can tell you with certainty is that the US dollar has declined and will continue to decline. And that's not what I want for myself or for you. So take the first step, scan the QR code and talk to one of our expert analysts. They have years of experience in helping people get a strategy in place before it's too soon and things continue on this path and you were wishing that you had started this journey earlier. Or if it's easier, click the Calendly link below to get some time set up with one of our expert analysts. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And as we continue to navigate future headlines and reports, I'll be here debunking the data and keeping you updated every step of the way. As always, thank you so much for being here. I'm Taylor Kenny with ITM Trading. Until next time.
Okay, family. Hope I'm coming in loud and clear. Hoping I'm coming in loud and clear. Oh man, so much to do, so little time. They say if you listen long enough, you definitely will learn something. And again, family, I hope you are learning something. We had a pretty good weekend here at Diversity Trust, Diversity Holdings, all affiliate organizations and our groups and family offices. We initiated a prerequisite loan officer summit training that was done. It was in an automated proponent, and we had pretty good, participation in that regard. One of the things that came up during this summit was the request for some information on learning more about some of the stuff that you just heard and experienced in that regard. So, of course, the request was made. I took it upon myself to go a little bit further and providing a handpicked list of things that I think the modern day notarial law practitioner would need to really look at to really get a full idea of and a handle on a lot of these things. And we did make that list available. And so by popular demand, I will extend that for at least the next 3 days for anyone who is interested in receiving that material. And these things do include a very consolidated list of things from our private library. One is an actual manual called Trustee Investment Strategies for Endowment and Funding. And this is what's used when you're dealing with high net worth clientele. We have quite a few practitioners who did participate in the last family office meeting that was done in December. And as a result, these individuals are now engaging with high net worth individuals in their endeavors. And this is one of the manuals that I always recommend for practitioners who are fully engulfed into arbitration. Another one is called Arbitrage Guide to um, Financial Products. And this particular arbitration guide is that it's all things arbitrage and financing in the financial market. And so it shows you very adequately certain things that can be done in that regard. The next would be the asymmetric returns. Asymmetric returns is a plethora of strategies, liquidity ratios. It really whips the mind into looking at things very quickly to kind of be able to evaluate what type of asymmetric return you can basically build from the data that's in front of you. Then we also have the Handbook of Finance, Then we also have, and this is like a companion guide, a companion manual, the Trustee Investment Strategy for Endowment Foundation. That was the first one I gave you. This one here is another companion guide that deals with advising ultra affluent clients and family offices. So now it's like, now that you have the data, now you have this, that, and the other. These are the things that you're looking for from the actual high net worth clients and family offices. That's a companion guide that I think everyone should utilize, and especially for all you guys. And this one right here, because the requester was of a Moorish descent, and we were, doing this during Talim and Jumar, off the cuff of it. We got into a manual that I keep very close to me. It's called The Understanding of Islamic Finance. And this is something for all Moors who are engaging into commerce. These are kind of the things so you don't violate any, treaties and customs in that regard. I also have included, after speaking with my other intricate members of the family office about the operational risk towards Basel III. That manual is a plethora of information that shows you how the compliance officers are able to interact directly with Basel. Actually operate through the Bank of International Settlements because of the operational risk under Basel III. Then you also have the Bank and Insurance Capital Management Manual. That book, I tell you, is kind of the who's who in banking and insurance and management. These were some of the things that were discussed during the summit. And in trustee training, I've told everyone that upon my ability to get back with everyone from what happened over the weekend, I will be bringing that information forward. So again, for those of you that are interested in receiving those materials, whether you participated in the summit or not, they are available. Just reach out to the office at 561-873-2125 to get more exclusive content. Remember, all we're offering is the truth, nothing more, nothing less. And if you listen long enough, you definitely will learn something. So if you're learning something, let's keep digging. Because remember, as long as you keep showing up and doing what you're doing, we're not going anywhere. What comes to mind when you think about wealth and income? Is it the flashy cars and opulence of the rich, or perhaps the struggle of the poor? Well, buckle up as we delve into the world of income brackets and how people perceive them. Imagine someone earning $32,000 or less a year. According to popular belief, this person falls into the poor or near poor category. In reality, this person is broke. They are living paycheck to paycheck, barely making ends meet. Now picture someone who makes between $32,000 and $53,000 a year. People perceive them as part of the lower to middle class. However, their financial situation is quite dire. They are very poor, struggling to afford basic necessities, and often living in debt. Then there's the individual who earns between $53,000 and $106,000 annually. Society labels them as middle class. But do you know what's interesting? They are essentially in the upper poor class, burdened by financial obligations and constantly striving to maintain their standard of living. What about those who make between $106,000 to $373,000? They are seen as the upper class. Yet they are merely surviving, managing their head above water, while dealing with the increasing costs of a comfortable lifestyle. Finally, consider those who earn upwards of $373,000. They are deemed rich by societal standards. Yet, in reality, they fall into what many would consider the middle class. They can afford a comfortable lifestyle, but they are not immune to financial stress and the pressure to maintain their wealth. So, what's the takeaway from all of this? Income perception is a complex issue, often skewed by societal norms and personal biases. What one person considers wealthy might be another person's definition of poverty. Perceptions of wealth and income are not always aligned with reality. The poor are not just those earning less than $32,000, and the rich aren't just those earning more than $373,000. These labels, poor, middle class, rich, they're just that, labels. And they often obscure the realities of financial struggle and insecurity that span across all income brackets. Remember, wealth and income do not always equate to financial stability or happiness. It's a much more complex picture than what meets the eye, and it's high time we started acknowledging it. So, the next time you think about wealth and income, remember this: perception is not always reality. Legislative drafting is a crucial process that transforms policy proposals into clear, effective, and enforceable laws within the parliamentary system. As a parliamentarian draftsman, your role is to ensure that legislation accurately reflects the policy objectives while complying with legal principles and constitutional requirements. As a parliamentarian draftsman, your primary responsibility is to draft legislation that is clear, precise, and accessible to the intended audience. You will work closely with policymakers, legal experts, and stakeholders to understand the policy objectives and translate them into legally sound provisions. To excel in this role, you should possess a strong legal background, a deep understanding of parliamentary procedures, and excellent analytical skills. Attention to detail, research capabilities, and the ability to work collaboratively are essential. Legislation should use clear, unambiguous language that can be easily understood by both legal professionals and the general public. Ambiguity and vagueness should be avoided to prevent confusion and ensure proper enforcement. Drafting should be consistent with existing laws, legal principles, and established drafting conventions. This promotes legal coherence and helps avoid conflicts or unintended consequences. Legislation should be accessible to the target audience, including non-legal professionals and individuals affected by the law. Consideration should be given to plain language techniques, logical organization, and user-friendly formatting. Engage in thorough consultations with policymakers, legal experts, and stakeholders to understand the policy objectives, scope, and potential impacts of the legislation. Conduct comprehensive research on existing laws, legal precedents, and relevant international obligations. Analyze the potential impact of the proposed legislation and identify any potential conflicts or inconsistencies. Scene script. Follow established drafting conventions and guidelines to structure the bill effectively. Use clear and concise language, define key terms, and ensure proper cross-referencing within the legislation. Iteratively review and revise drafts based on feedback from policymakers, legal experts, and stakeholders. Ensure that the legislation accurately reflects the intended policy objectives and complies with legal and constitutional requirements. Develop a deep understanding of the legal framework within which the legislation operates, including constitutional provisions, existing laws, and relevant international obligations. Ensure that the draft legislation complies with existing laws, constitutional provisions, and international obligations. Conduct legal analysis and seek expert advice if necessary. Adhere to clear and precise language, avoiding jargon and legalese whenever possible. Use consistent terminology and drafting conventions to enhance clarity and understanding.
All right. Is that you, Dr. Livingston?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello there. Yes, this is Dr. Livingston.
Great. Glad you can make it. This is Rocco.
I did. Yeah, I made it about 45 minutes early. And the folks told me, so you're about 45 minutes early. But they said it sounds like an interesting call. All right.
Cool.
So you guys open it up to tell me, I guess, who you guys are, and I'll try to give you a little bit of my background, and then we'll go from there.
Well, we're just two guys, Bo and Rocco, and we're tangling with the law.
Okay.
Basically, two regular guys, you know, probably 3 years into it, and
Okay.
we've stumbled, tripped, and fallen, but we're still on our feet.
All right. So this is a radio show, though, right?
Correct.
All right. So we're going out over the airways, I'm assuming.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's good.
Well, and, people listening on their phones, so it's all good.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Where would you like for me to start?
Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, as I was going over with the other folks, I've been at this legal issue for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I started in 94, 95, as just a little student in law, and came out of that. My first case I won. It involved my discovery of something that most people can't even begin to understand. And it's called that in any criminal case, state or federal, doesn't matter, in any criminal case, no one has the right to a trial by jury. Now, that usually shocks everybody, and they go, no, we got a right to a trial by jury, and my comeback is, no, you don't. This has been a deception for a long time. It's a fraud, and on the surface of it, it sounds like judges would love that, but they actually don't. They hate the argument because it leaves them somewhere they really would rather never be. It is, as I said, the biggest fraud, one of the biggest frauds in the country, this country as well, especially. And you'd say, well, how does that work? What do we mean by no right to trial by jury? Well, it starts out at Article 3, Section 2, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution. And before we examine this particular part, we want to lay a few groundwork lies down. The first one is the word trial. The word trial comes from the word try. And if I were to ask you, if you were to try out a new car, who would control the car? The expected response would be, I would. And that would be right. You would control the car. If I were to ask you, if you were to try on new clothes, who would control the clothes? And you would say, I would. And that would be right. The reason for that is the word try means or goes to control. And if you're driving the car more than a time or two, you're no longer trying it, you're driving it. And if you're putting on the clothes every day and so forth, you're no longer trying them on, you are wearing them. So we understand that try goes to this thing called control, and trial goes to control process. And in either case, the concept of try or trial means to go through this new experience for the first time, for one time or a limited number of times before that changes. And it goes to the issue of control. Now, the word shall goes to, we find the word shall in the 1785 Samuel Johnson Dictionary, the American Dictionary, and it goes to the word, or the actual goes to the Saxon rendering of I owe or I ought. That's how it's defined. I owe or I ought. Shall means obligation or duty. And so we get that part, shall. The word all in any of the dictionaries is just really how it sounds. All means everything and nothing excluded and so forth. We go to Article 3, Section 2, Clause 3, and there we find a little phrase we'll call a parenthetical phrase. It's offset by commas, but it's called parenthetical. Okay, now it says, except in cases of impeachment. Well, people don't go into court to be impeached, not as a rule. That's usually something for legislatures to try certain kinds of officials. So what we want to do is say that term, except in cases of impeachment, doesn't apply to the ordinary case. And so we're going to exclude it, or we're going to kind of jump over it, okay, where it's at, and read straight through. That would render this whole thing, this Article 3, Section 2, Clause 3, as the trial, control process, right? The trial of all crimes shall be by jury. Now, what did I do there? I've read straight across, and now we get this picture. The trial of all crimes shall be by jury. Wait a minute here. I've got a different copy of the Constitution. Let me see if mine matches yours. You've probably got one. So the trial of some crimes, excuse me, let me go back up there. The hearing of some crimes may be by jury under the direction and supervision of a judge. Now, does anybody read that anywhere?
No, what version you got? I have the trial of all crimes except in cases of impeachment shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state.
Right, okay, so you don't have that version I just made up.
Not in front of me anyways.
so you don't have the version I just made up, right?
No.
All right. Okay. Well, I did this for a reason. You know, I said under the direction and supervision of a judge, and that's not there, is it?
Sure.
And so the question is, how is the judge getting into the trial if the word trial means control process? The jury is supposed to control it, so how does the judge get into it? Well, for that, we're going to go to the Sixth Amendment. This is where it's coming from, the Sixth Amendment. In all criminal prosecutions, comma, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial, comma, by an impartial jury. Now, in principles of law, whenever we hold two similar laws with language and so forth, we hold them together. We do that in order to get a good picture of what the final rendering of the law or the discerning of the law is. We hold the two laws together. In this case, in all criminal prosecutions, that holds tight to the trial of all crimes, right? In fact, two things here. First of all, this is known as in para materia. I-N space P-A-R-A space M-A-T-E-R-I-A, in para materia. And it means to hold two like worded laws together in order to discern the right, the correct meaning of that law. Okay, so in para materia. We also go to June the 8th, 1789. We find James Madison, as Congressman Madison, has just presented the Bill of Rights to the Congress. All right, it's all in the records. He's done this quite lengthy, actually, and he's really the father of the Bill of Rights as well, because he's the one that really introduced it for the first time. He actually puts in there, precisely as I've just discerned it, he says he's proposing this amendment. The bill, he says, the trial of all crimes shall be by an impartial jury. Okay, all right. He's really targeting Article 3, Section 2, Clause 3, because you see there was a problem. He realized that we needed to change. We needed to insert the one word impartial. All right, so the trial of all crimes shall be by impartial jury is the way it is truly to be construed. Okay, now at this point we want to do something kind of important. We've got the except in cases of in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. Now, you have that comma after the word trial this time, and you can't actually jump the word right over the comma. Grammatically speaking, it's not correct. But everyone wants to say, yes, I have the right to trial by jury. I see it there. I see the word right. So I want a trial by jury. Now, you know, anytime you have an actual right that's personal to you, you can waive that right, can you not?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Okay. So you can waive that right, and let's play devil's advocate. Let's go ahead and extend the right over the comma, and it's now going to connect to the impartial jury. Having the right to an impartial jury, you can now waive it, can't you?
If you so choose, I would think, yeah.
You could do that. Okay. Here's the first question. Question one. What is the opposite of an impartial jury?
A biased jury?
A judge.
Partial. Okay, you're right. Partial jury, right? Prejudice or bias, partial jury, right? And we know that would violate the Fifth Amendment, right? We know that's not due process of law, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we can't really waive the right to an impartial jury and get a partial jury, can we? You wouldn't think so? Let's try this one more time. Let's just ask the same question, but we're going to respond to it differently. And the answer is not a judge. All right. The answer to the question is what is the opposite of an impartial jury? The answer is not a judge. Are you getting that?
Not a judge.
The answer to the question of what is the opposite of an impartial jury is not a judge. Not a judge. You can't waive your right to an impartial jury and get a judge. Okay? Wait, it gets better. Okay, so what we're doing here, this is not a play on words at all. We're going back to the original version. We now put the word impartial in there. The trial of all crimes shall be by impartial jury, right? Can't waive and get a judge, right? Now, whose right is it to try the crime? The trial of all crimes shall be by
the jury.
Impartial jury, right? Whose right is it to try the crime?
The plaintiff?
The jury is all crimes shall be by jury. Okay. Whose right is it to try the crime? Whose duty is it to try the crime?
Jury?
The jury. It is the duty of the jury to try. It's their right and it's their duty to try all crimes. And the judge can't be in the courtroom with them at the time they try the crime. Now, do you see why judges don't like the argument? The judge cannot be in the courtroom with them at the time they try the crime. This means that judges have a 100% zero right to be in any courtroom with any jury trying crimes. All right. Let's take this a little further. First of all, we're going to look at a few things. We're going to look at terms like embracery. What is embracery? It's a crime. It's a crime that judges commit when they try to influence a jury either way. Tell me how they're not going to influence the jury if they're in this courtroom with them. Embracery. Then we look at another term, writ upon decisis. What is that? It is a writ, which is an order, and it's not issued by a judge in particular, but it's an order directing a sheriff to impanel a jury for an assize or real action. Now, what is an assize? A-S-S-I-Z-E. What is an assize? It's a 12-man jury without a judge. Okay, are we being had? Is something going on here historically that has changed what was to something different? We've been led to believe that judges are part of the furniture, right?
Right.
Isn't that the idea?
Some places that reads that 12 white men even. So.
Well, the trial of all crimes shall be by jury. We got two terms already: embracery, which is a crime that judges commit when they influence a jury either way. Okay, instructing the jury is one of those issues. Now let's take a look for a moment before I get really deep, and we're going to take a look at the arraignment. See, it's the arraignment is where they get into the picture. The arraignment is actually an illegal process. In the 1785 version or edition of Samuel Johnson's dictionary, the word arraignment describes a process that begins with the indictment or the arrest, and it goes all the way through to trial with nothing in between. All right?
Okay.
So the arraignment then is something that was created to let judges get into the courtroom. The whole issue of bail was another one. See, there was technically never supposed to be anything. The arraignment was the entire process to going to trial. Nothing in between. No quote unquote arraignment hearing. In fact, since we have the Fifth Amendment, we have this little thing we used to call being how does it go? Being considered as innocent until proven guilty, something like that, right? There is a concept in law called main prize. Main prize, M-A-I-N-P-R-I-S-E, main prize. Main prize bail as opposed to common bail. In common bail, they can do things like have roll calls and arraignment hearings and all kinds of things. But in main prize, they can't. What is main prize? Well, main prize is the true form of bail that comes under the Fifth Amendment. It is a form of bail that once you make your financial arrangements and are released, you are not expected to be back into the trial until trial. That means you can go anywhere, do anything, as long as you're back for trial, because you're considered to be innocent until proven guilty. The truth is, that's not what they're doing. They're not considering you innocent until proven guilty. That's why they put you under the bond, and then they check on you, and you got to check in and all that kind of garbage, right? But main prize, you put up the money, whatever it is, and then you're free to go. Why? Because you're presumed to be innocent. You can't presume somebody to be innocent and then treat them like crap. Okay? So we're beginning to see that something's gone wrong here. The arraignment is an illegitimate principle or concept, violating the concept of the actual arraignment.
Now, family, hope I'm coming in loud and clear. Let's discuss my good friend, Judge Dale, because this is a judge. This is entitled What Judges Don't Want You to Know by my good friend, Judge Dale. The True Deal with Judges by Dr. Dale Livingston. A lot of individuals do not understand the how did we get here proponent. And I have to constantly remind everyone that law and history go together. So if you don't understand what you call a law and the history behind it, you don't know why it exists and why it's being used. I will say in a different life, I remember my own endeavor with the system and what Dr. Dale Livingston, a former judge who sat on the bench for a certain period of time, what he reveals in this True Deal with Judges is what we've all known, but no one talks about. See, once you are quote unquote indicted, once you have gone through some sort of arraignment, the damage has already been done. Even if everything that's being done is a fraudulent proponent, it does not matter because people's perception of things has been molded into a perception where if they keep saying things over and over again, thus it must be true. For example, over 90% of warrants that are issued are fraudulent. I'll give you a basic concept that everybody who's not a law student can exploit. If you actually have access to the paperwork, meaning the actual paperwork that basically shows that you have a outstanding warrant. An outstanding warrant in commerce is a check. The word warrant and check are synonymous. So when a warrant has been issued, a check has been issued. It's commercial. Now, because that warrant has been issued, which is a financial term in banking, meaning a check, that check is a negotiable instrument. And that negotiable instrument has characteristics that it must follow. But remember, if you don't understand this, what you end up doing is usually something that makes it very difficult to get out from under. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the things I think one should know. I am going to elaborate on some things that everyone can examine in their own leisure to examine when it comes to negotiable instruments. I am telling you, negotiable instruments, the word warrant means check, and a check is a negotiable instrument, and that negotiable instrument is governed under UCC 2-01 subsection A. It is a holder in due course transferability proponent. When you're dealing with UCC 2-1 subsection A, the holder receives at the very least the rights of the previous predecessor, and that's viewed under UCC 2 UCC 203, UCC 3-203B, and also UCC 3-305. But it is unlikely that an assignment, a transfer of the negotiation, the warrant, the check can make possible for the holder to receive more rights in the instrument than the prior possessor, which is under UCC 3-305. A holder who receives greater rights is known as a holder in due course. A concept that this is what they're doing to you. Warrant is issued. A check is issued. That's a negotiable instrument. And that negotiable instrument is considered an ordered instrument. And that ordered instrument has to have an endorsement. It has to have an endorsement. It has to be signed. Now watch this. The warrant that's been issued is supposed to have 3 different signatures on it. It's supposed to be one by the presiding judge. It should be one by the prosecuting attorney. And then it has to be one by the actual officer executing the actual warrant. When you notice, there will be 3 signatures, but 2 of the signatures will be the same. The judge will have a rubber stamp, and then the quote unquote officer on behalf of the court will sign it. So the judge is going to sign twice. The judge is going to sign twice. The judge is going to sign twice. When they're supposed to be 3 separate signatures: judge, prosecutor, and the arresting officer. This is a negotiable instrument. This is under UCC 3-201, subsection A, UCC 3-203B, and UCC 3-305. And because it doesn't have all 3 of those signatures, the negotiating order instrument is now void. It's only enforceable when the individual consents. You get arrested, you never really see the negotiable instrument. And when you go through this fake arraignment, you end up pleading not innocent, but not guilty. Get it? And people synonymously believe that by pleading not guilty, that is the same as pleading innocent. And that is not. You might not be guilty of what we're charging you today, but you did do something, and we're going to compel you to what you did. But everything about the warrant is fruits of a poisonous tree. So if it's fruits of a poisonous tree, the entire arraignment, indictment, and issuing of the check is what? Fruits of a poisonous tree. Remember, when they actually arrested you, that was the first court proceeding. When you actually show up to court, that's your first appeal. And I admire Judge Dale for bringing this to light. So again, keep listening, because if you listen long enough, you will learn something. And practitioners that study, quote unquote, notarial law, you understand that all charges that are brought up in their public tribunals start out commercial first. They become criminal when you keep tongue wrestling with these individuals. So keep listening to Judge Dale, and because if you do, you probably will learn something.
Here's what happens, and this is why they do it. See, the judges have no actual way to get into the criminal case unless they do something to put themselves in there. So what they do is they get you in front of them, and they say, you have the right to a trial by jury. Lie. And if you give up your right to a trial by jury, lie, you get me. Okay, you get me. There's that. That's where that issue of you can't waive your right to a trial by jury and get a judge, an impartial jury. That's why Madison realized that he had to put the word impartial in front of the word jury. Okay, he's the one that did it. He's the one that proposed it, and he knew what he was doing, because he knew that if he just said judge, then they could end up with, or excuse me, if they just said jury in it, then they could waive it and get a judge, get anything really. So he put the word impartial in there on purpose, knowing that you can't waive your right to a trial by jury or impartial jury and get a judge, even if you had the right, which you don't, because it is the jury that actually has the right to try all crimes without a judge in the courtroom. All right, now let's go to another little point here. Okay, because you see, in the arraignment, the first thing that makes the arraignment an illegal act is the fact that they can't force you to plead guilty, can they? Can't force you to do that. Fifth Amendment says no. Then the other side of that is, well, can they force you to plead not guilty? Now, I actually raised this issue before the 10th Circuit, the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals in Missouri, back in around the turn of the century, in a case. And because the federal court, because the 8th Circuit saw what I did, they actually, I think it was in 2002, they had that little judicial conference that all the judges in the Supreme go to, and they actually changed the federal rules of criminal procedure to make it so that they can now force you to plead not guilty. If you refuse to plead guilty and you refuse to plead not guilty, they will forcibly plead not guilty for you. It's in their rules. They have to do it. Why? They're afraid. They're afraid because they really can't legally force you to plead not guilty. What's wrong with it? Well, first of all, the question comes, do you have the right not to lie? Does anybody out there have the right not to lie? Well, the obvious answer would be yes. You have the right not to lie. Good. Well, then when you plead not guilty, would the judge know that you were not lying, or would he know that you are lying? Which one? He wouldn't know. He wouldn't know that you were actually lying, would he? And you have the right not to lie. It's a personal thing. I mean, you may have just shot somebody, but you don't want to lie about it, right? So when they ask you to plead not guilty, they can't ask you to plead not guilty because you might be lying and you have the right not to lie. It's a moral right. Some people, it's a religious right. And the bottom line is, they can't legally or lawfully force you to lie because it is a matter of conscience. But they do it anyway because, again, they need that little wedge, that little way of getting into the case. Everybody with me so far? You with me?
Yeah, so far.
Okay, all right. So you have the right. So this is how they get into in the arraignment. Now, some people say, well, it's the judge's job to keep the peace. No, the bailiff and the jury director or foreperson can actually keep the peace. So we don't need a judge to keep the peace, do we? Okay. What about the judge's need to instruct the jury on the law? We get back into that embracery issue, don't we? But let's look at the thing again. Who is it that's supposed to actually instruct the jury as to the law? Who is that? Who should do that? It's not the judge. Who should do it? Well, the answer is it's the prosecutor. And here's the logic as to why. If the prosecutor doesn't know the law sufficiently to instruct the jury on the law that he says you broke, what in the hell is he doing in the courtroom? Okay, does that come through?
Looking good in his black robe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If the prosecutor, if the prosecuting attorney or whoever, if the prosecutor doesn't know the law sufficiently to instruct the jury on the law that he says you broke without any help, what's he doing in the courtroom?
He's there to help.
Well, the prosecutor has to. Let me put it to you another way. I was in a case. It was a case before mine actually, and I saw the judge look to the attorney that was prosecuting the case, and the judge said to the prosecutor, "You will instruct me on the law." Now, does that tell you that the judge knew that it was the job of the prosecutor, not himself, to instruct the person trying the case or whoever's trying the case on the law? Okay, it's the prosecutors, it's the plaintiff side that's supposed to, first of all, instruct the jury on the law. All right? So this is another little thing that we find that establishes that there's a corruption that's gone down here. Historically, we can go back in time far enough, and we'll find that there are cases where juries tried crimes, even serious ones, even homicides, and there was no judge in the courtroom or even in the town where these things occurred. Historically, there are many cases in the country just like that. We presume because we watch TV and Hollywood told us that judges were part of all the courtroom cases. It's not true. It's a lie.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was little, Perry Mason and Three Stooges,
yeah.
Disorder in the Court.
Yep. All those kind of cases. That was all Hollywood. But while that was going on, we had cases, and I could go through some of them with you, where we had homicide cases in which the town couldn't afford a judge, and so they didn't afford a judge. Well, if you think, well, gee, that's not right. They got to have a judge because doesn't the law make us have a judge? No, it doesn't. It actually, some states have it, but historically, that's not how our country came about. Now, let's go to another point. Because the word try, now this is U.S. Constitution, the word try means control, right? Trial means control process.
Okay.
So let's ask the question at this point. When does the trial by jury begin? Does the trial by jury begin when the jury takes the jury box, seats themselves in the jury box? Is that when the trial begins by jury? That is to say, does the jury take control of the courtroom proceedings at that time? Because you see, they're supposed to, under the definition of the word trial. So is that when it takes place? And the answer would probably be no, right? That they don't take control at that point. The judge is still there, right?
Yeah, I mean, the way I've seen juries operate, they're just merely there at the, under the prosecutor.
Right. of the judge.
Mm-hmm.
The judge is actually controlling the process, isn't he? If you made two fists and one's the jury and one's the judge, and you put the judge on top of the jury, showing he's presiding over the trial, he's controlling the process. He's doing the actual trying, not the jury. They're all under his thumb. Okay? So the question is, when does the trial by jury actually begin? When does it begin? Does it begin when they read the charges into the record? Is that when it begins? The answer is still no. All right, well, what about when they go into the jury room and finally they're all by themselves and the judge is not there to say whatever to them? Is that when trial by jury begins? When they go into the jury room? Is that it?
I don't know. I mean,
well, if we said yes to that question, if we said yes, that's when trial by jury begins. It's when they go into the jury room. Then another question raises. If that's when trial by jury begins, what was the entire procedure before that called? If you couldn't call the procedure before that trial by jury, then what was it called? Judicial fraud?
Yeah, acting?
It's called judicial fraud.
Judicial fraud.
Judicial fraud. It's precisely what it is. Everything that we're seeing, the assize, 12-man jury without a judge, embracery, crime that a judge commits when they try to instruct a jury either way, it comes under obstruction of justice. That's exactly where embracery comes under. All right, so now we've got this amazing new picture of no judges have the right. Judges have no right in the courtroom in 100% of all criminal cases. No right. They have 100% zero right. That may be one way of saying it. They don't have a right to be in the courtroom when the jury tries the crime. Got it? The word trial by jury and not trial with jury is the key.
Yep.
All right. Now, there are several things I could go through. I could go through Palco versus Connecticut, 1937. This is where the conspiracy began by Benjamin Cardoza actually began, in which he regarded the trial by jury and the grand jury both as being something that, according to him, they could just do away with. They weren't fundamental, as he put it. They weren't fundamental to the rights of the people. Okay? Now, that goes against the things that Madison said about juries as being really, quite frankly, very fundamental to our rights. But the conspiracy against juries began in 1937, Palco versus Connecticut. Now, there's one more little bit on this thing that really begins to come through. And when you understand this one, this is the finishing touch. We've got all this information. We've just discovered that it is the right, and not just the right, it is the mandate. The mandate is the duty for juries to try all crimes. All crimes. And I don't care if it's traffic or whatever can be categorized as a crime, it is the jury's right and their mandate to try it. And the judge can't be in the courtroom when they try it. Now, one last thing clinches this hard and heavy. 5 days before the Constitution was signed, there was a man who spoke for the second time on that day, September the 12th, 1787. 5 days later, they're going to sign the Constitution. But today is September the 12th. The man who speaks is the founder, Mr. Elbridge Gerry. Mr. Founder Gerry makes the statement on the second time that he speaks up, and he's the one who literally brought us trial by jury to begin with. And at this time he brings this trial by jury, he tells us as to what the purpose of the jury is. Okay, he tells us what the purpose of the jury is, and Madison writes it down. Would anybody care to take a little guess as to what the purpose of juries are, according to Mr. Elbridge Gerry, Mr. Founder Gerry? Anybody want to venture a guess on that one?
Oh gosh, I mean, yeah, that's all it would be as a guess, because they never taught me this in school.
I know. These things aren't taught in law schools anymore. It takes law professors like myself to dig it out. Here's what he said. The purpose of the jury is to guard against corrupt judges. Like that one? Very solid questions. Yeah. To guard against corrupt judges. Now tell me, how does a jury determine when someone comes through the door as a judge, how do they determine whether that person is or is not corrupt? Can they do it? They have no way to do it, can't they? They have no way to do it.
You can ask him if he's got a bar card.
That's the best excuse to say you can't trust him.
Now, family, remember, all I'm offering you is the truth, nothing more, nothing less. This is morning trustee training. We train compliance officers. We train civil law notaries, and we also influence the parliamentary draftsmen, parliamentarian draftsmen of tomorrow. And individuals have to understand, in order for you to know where you're going, you got to know where you came from. The main purpose of using arbitration versus litigation is to protect against all those things that you just heard. We typically allow the practitioner to exploit and explore the limitless possibilities of the system, because law and history go together. And if you have not been taught in your public school systems the true origin of law, you probably are swinging left and right in the dark and hitting nothing. So hopefully what I've just given you in this morning trustee training is enough to get your juices flowing in the right direction. For those of you that need the expertise of qualified civil law notaries, compliance officer, and parliamentary draftsmen alike, please reach our office at 561-873-2125. And remember, if you listen long enough, you will learn something. With that, I will say peace and love. But before we jump out of here, for those of you that love what you just heard, you ain't seen nothing yet, I will encourage you to get with the individual who referred you to this link if this is your first time, so you can learn the opportunity to earn over 30 grand a month because of what you just heard, because there is a lot of work to be done. Also enroll into our brokerage program where you can now take this to the 4 wins to help entrepreneurs, small businesses get into the right frame of mind. And then last but not least, keep in mind that we are in the world's longest bank run. So there are a lot of private family offices that are seeking refuge, and we're using a proponent that we only offer through our family office. For more exclusive details, ask exclusively for a quote for private COVID insurance. That will open the door to all the things that we're talking about. With that, I'm going to say peace and love, family. Peace and love.